It's week 2 in the NFL. Did your rookie stand out, or does your rookie have some room to grow? That is coming up on Locked On NFL Draft.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, sir. Welcome in. It is Locked On NFL Draft. I am John Harris, along with former NFL, AFL defensive back Eric Crocker. He's the smart one. We got Ryan Tracy at Ryan Tracy NFL on Twitter. He is the good-looking one, and that makes me, John Harris, that makes me the old one, I would imagine. Welcome in, everybody, to Locked On NFL Draft. We'd like to thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen of the day. And this show is brought to you by Prize Picks. Today's episode of Locked On NFL Draft is presented by Prize Picks. It's a daily fantasy made easy. Pick 2 to 5 players, and if they score more or less than their Prize Picks projection, you can win up to 10 times your money on your entry. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code Locked On. That's PrizePicks.com, promo code Locked On. So, boys, this weekend, week 2 in the NFL, I spent the afternoon in Denver getting a tan and watching Russell Wilson throw for less than 47% in the game. But, Eric, we'll start with you. What rookies were you locked on this weekend watching ball on a Sunday?
I think you got to start with Aiden Hutchinson, right? I mean, a guy who had 1 tackle last week, and it was very underwhelming in his first NFL start of the official season, especially after having the play tackle for loss in one of his first snaps of the NFL in the preseason. So you go from that to 1 tackle. Man, where's he at? Where'd he go? Well, he broke a Detroit Lions rookie record, 3 sacks in the second game of the season for him. And, just when you talk about getting the number 2 overall pick and drafting the guy like Aiden Hutchinson, and it was a guy who maybe, I guess, I kind of, the high ceiling, low ceiling thing, I don't know, right? But he had a lot of ability and he had a high motor, and to see him be that productive, that's awesome to see. Heck, I remember just a few years ago, about 5 years ago now, San Francisco 49ers took a guy by the name of Solomon Thomas, number 3 overall. And I think he might have had 3 sacks all of his rookie year, if that. I don't even know if he had 3. So to see Aiden Hutchinson get that in 1 game, I feel like you got to kind of show him some love right away. So shout out to Aiden Hutchinson making some type of impact for the Detroit Lions, who had a big win as well.
Yeah, no doubt. That win, and I've been talking about the Lions for a while here in Houston, and I've kind of taken some heat for it because they're saying I'm a Lions-ophile, like I am the one Lions supporter here, and I'm like, I'm just telling you what I see. I'm on Ross St. Brown, looks pretty good. Jared Goff doesn't look like Rams Jared Goff, but he doesn't look bad. And then you throw in Hutch and the other pieces that they've got on that team, and boy, they've got a little something going on. Ron, I want to ask you this about Aiden Hutchinson. From an analytics standpoint, comparatively to other, you mentioned Solomon Thomas. I thought you were going to bring up Nick Bosa. But to the other edge rushers in the NFL, where did Aiden Hutchinson coming into this draft stack up analytically? Was he kind of top of the charts, or was he a guy that was a little bit, further down, didn't test as well analytically compared to the other true blue chip pass rushers in this league?
He was a bit below the Bosa brothers, both in terms of win percentage and efficiency and finish percentage is what I call it. There's 3 major things that you got to do. You got to win your rep. You got to hope that produces a pressure. And then if you get a pressure, you got to hope that you can convert that to a sack, right? So 3 things that I track all the time. And this rookie class, he's hanging right up there. He is tied for the lead with pressure production, so he's getting them there. And he's second here right now in terms of converting those to sacks. 9 pressures, 3 sacks. He's running at 33%. Funny that Dominique Robinson is the guy who's beating him at 50%. Not near as many snaps, though. So he's got 4 pressures on, I think, only 26 pass rush snaps. So a little bit more efficient there. It comes and it goes, and it's all situational, right? Karlaftis and Trayvon Walker are the guys that kind of round out the big 3. But when you look at actual win percentage, not whether it produces the pressure, but how often are you beating the guy in front of you? Are you, quote unquote, accomplishing your assignment? It's D'Angelo Malone and, again, Dominique Robinson that seem to be off to the hottest start. Now it's just 2 weeks, but that's encouraging for guys that got drafted lower down and that can still contribute and bring some pressure to their clubs.
No doubt. Ryan, you mentioned George Karlaftis. What have you seen from him, and did you like what you saw against the Chargers?
Yeah, I feel like he's continuing to make slow progress. He's still a pass rush based guy that is power first. He's learned to convert. He's doing much better than he did in college, though, at changing his pad level. That's leading to more pressures, and he's just got to get to the point where he finishes it. He hasn't hit a regular season sack yet, but he's on his way. And now that Chris Jones is off, you're getting a little bit of pressure from Dunlap. You're getting a little pressure from Clark. It's just a matter of time, and then I think he's going to be rolling pretty well.
Well, I have the opportunity to watch Derek Stingley every day, and I know that's somebody that we talked about throughout the draft process. And I think Sunday is going to be one of the days that when Sting's career is over, and hopefully he's going to the Hall of Fame, and he's been in the league 12 to 15 years, and he's just been, Stingley Island or whatever you want to call it. He's going to look back on Sunday and think, man, Courtland Sutton taught him some lessons. The flip side of that was that Derek Stingley also was able to teach some lessons too and show, hey, wait a second, he does have the length, he does have the strength. But one of the things that stood out was late in the game against the Broncos, something happened. I don't know what exactly it was, but he reached down for his right leg, and I almost cursed on the air live, which would not have been good for an NFL broadcast to have cursed live on the air. But I think he was just dealing with a cramp. Well, he went over the sidelines, and he didn't go to the tent. He just stood up, and he was basically begging and pleading. Like, he was right next to the defensive backs coach. And when you see Sting, he's a quiet guy. He's kind of a shy guy. But, man, his competitive spirit is off the charts. And, Eric, you've played that position. You know how tough it is to play. And he did really well in the fade routes. He got stuck a couple times in man coverage, zone coverage. Sutton got in his blind spot a few times. But as a rookie, when you're facing a guy like Courtland Sutton that's got that size and that speed, I mean, how tough is that to be out there essentially on an island with that guy all day long like Sting was yesterday?
That is difficult, right? The big guy who can be fluid and the big guy that can kind of speed up your clock a little bit. A lot of times I like guarding the bigger guys because they're typically not as fast or not as quick, and you can kind of see some of their movements coming. So kind of reading their body down, that's something, to me, that just comes a little bit more natural versus the bigger guys, as opposed to smaller guys who are more twitched up. Change of direction is much more quicker. But when you have a guy like Courtland Sutton, and I remember him coming out of SMU, and it was very clear the upside and ability that he had because of that fluidity and that twitch and that settedness. And those are things that are, when you are that big and you see a guy like Derek Stingley Jr. out there and as a rookie, you might be able to take advantage of him. You can make him kind of open up and do some things that he's not quite ready for. So I'd assume Stingley has seen a whole lot, especially playing in the SEC. He'll figure that out. He'll get that together. And eventually, I don't think guys like Sutton would be that much of an issue for him.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think down the road, we're going to see a lot. I mean, Sting showed a lot of great things, but then there were also some times that Sutton got him. He had 7 catches, almost had a fade route that, was just a tremendous catch. But then Sting defended it pretty well. So I got to stand up, obviously, for my fellow Houston Texan. When we get back, the Ohio State wide receiver that stood out to us the most on Sunday, he was a superstar. But before we get there, we need to talk a little bit about Turo, the world's largest car-sharing marketplace. I mean, we share everything nowadays, right? You hit the share button for everything. You share your videos, you share your food, you share everything. Well, how about sharing your car? With Turo, you can book any car you want, wherever you want it, from a community of local hosts. Browse a huge selection of vehicles for just about any occasion or budget. Book an SUV or minivan for a family road trip, pickup truck if you're feeling the Houstonian in you, do some errands, test drive an EV. Every single trip is backed by liability insurance. Terms, conditions, and exclusions apply. Ditch the boring rental cars and find your drive at Turo. That's Turo, Turo.com. All right, we'd like to thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen of the day, and why wouldn't you? John, Eric, Ryan, as we're breaking out week 2 of the rookies. And this guy got a chance to see with an afternoon game in Denver. I got a chance to watch a little bit more of Browns-Jets. And there's this old saying down here in Texas, I'm sure it's a lot of places too, but, my favorite college team is the University of Texas and the team that's playing Oklahoma. Well, for us in Houston, my favorite team is the Houston Texans and whatever team is playing the Cleveland Browns, because we get Cleveland's draft pick, the first rounder, for the next couple of years. So at least for the next couple of years, sorry, Browns fans, I'll be cheering against you. And Eric Crocker, one of the major reasons why the Jets were able to walk out with an upset win was the performance of Garrett Wilson. Struggled a little bit in training camp, but, man, he showed it off. His first touchdown, the fade route, the release, Eric, he was outstanding.
Dynamic receiver, and you talked about how well he did, talked about the first touchdown. That's because he had 8 catches for over 100 yards for Garrett Wilson in his second start in the NFL, and he's just showing that dynamic ability. He was a guy who people were comparing to Odell Beckham, right? And we all saw Odell coming out super dynamic out of LSU. We saw what Odell was able to do once he got to the league, broke the record for most yards in the season for a rookie receiver after missing the first 4 games of the year. So a tall task to live up to that type of production, but from an ability standpoint, I think Garrett Wilson has it. He is twitched up. I think his body control is extraordinary at the catch point, being able to twist and turn his body in the air and go up and grab the ball. He plays bigger than his size. He has the necessary speed that he needs, and then he's showing that ability to be crafty at the line of scrimmage and lose guys right away. So Garrett Wilson jumped off the charts in that second start. Looks to be a guy that they'll be looking for early and often. Now, my only question is, at some point, Zach Wilson will come back. So when Wilson comes back in a few weeks, does Garrett Wilson still get the same amount of love? Does he have that rapport that he's kind of building right now with Joe Flacco? So I think that's one thing to definitely watch on as we continue to keep an eye on Garrett Wilson.
And the one other thing about Flacco, too, he used his running backs, which means he used Breece Hall. And it was good to see Breece Hall show what he showed at Iowa State against the Browns, getting the end zone. First of all, I don't know what the Browns were doing on 3rd and goal from the 10, and he just runs out to the flat, and nobody goes with him at all for an easy touchdown. But it was nice to see Breece Hall get in the end zone for the Jets to do the things that he's doing. And Garrett Wilson almost made you forget that Elijah Moore was on the field. I knew Elijah Moore was playing, but I'm watching Wilson going, if I didn't know anything about the Jets, I'd think, well, that's Elijah Moore. Like that's wide receiver number 1, right? He almost made him forget that Elijah Moore was on the field.
And that's what you want out of a guy that you took as high as they did, right? You want him to be is this the alpha guy? Is this our wide receiver 1? Is that the guy we can lean on and count on? And again, just the transition going from college to the NFL, there's a lot that's thrown at you, especially at Ohio State, right? You're at Ohio State, terrific receiver coach, by the way, former NFL receiver that they have there, Brett Hartline. He does a great job with all these young receivers, but, they don't huddle up. They hold up signs and they just run, okay, look to the sideline. Okay, what do I have to do? Run a post? Okay, I'm going to run a post. In the NFL, it's much different. You have all these different side adjustments. You get all kind of post-snap and pre-snap looks from defenses. You have to be able to adjust on the fly. So if we're seeing him be this productive early on with 8 receptions for over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns, you'd assume you want to see him continue to kind of build on that. Until defenses start to make that adjustment, then once they do, that's a whole different ball game with how they guard you. And we saw Jamar Chase kind of go through that last year where early on he's catching go routes, he's flying by guys, having these explosive plays. Then the team said, okay, you're just catching the ball down the field. We're going to play too high over you, and we're going to limit those big plays. And then you saw his production drop off for a little bit, for about a month there. Then all of a sudden, he ended up picking back up, and you saw him make that adjustment to how defenses were adjusting to him. So Garrett Wilson will definitely see that at some point this year. Can he continue to stack these type of games together? That's something that I'm excited to see.
Before too long, Ryan, the teams are going to have to account for Garrett Wilson, no doubt, but they're also going to have to account for Drake London.
Yeah.
And I was curious to see how London would do facing a Rams defense, that Fangio, Brandon Staley, Raheem Morris type defense, and how he would do against Jalen Ramsey. I think Drake London's going to be an absolute superstar. I don't think they got the right guy throwing to him just yet, but in due time. But Drake London, where do you stand on him, and how do you think he did week 2?
Well, I think what's really interesting about the two of them is that they're both kind of future-proof in different ways. I like the usage that we're seeing for Wilson. They're running him 40% out of the slot. And so even if there are adjustments made, even if more garners more attention, he's going to be able to adapt and have more routes that he can run and still be effective in moving the ball. Same thing with London, especially when you're going to put it up to him. He's 100% on contested catches so far. Now, granted, it's a small sample size. It's early in the season. But he's doing exactly what we saw him do in college. So the transition has not been, going off the rails at all. Is the guy that he is. Conversely, Wilson is 0 for 5 in contested catches. And the really shocking one for me is the guy who's running second of the rookie class is Jahan Dotson, 4 out of 5 contested catches. You can't be Drake London, but you can do everything with Drake London. You might as well try to be like him when you're going to get in tight coverage and have somebody on your back. I think London's just getting started, and I agree with you completely about the guy who's putting the ball to him. I think once that switchover occurs and you have that rapport start to build, I think you're going to see London be even more effective in the areas we're not expecting right now. The throw it up and go get it thing, we all understand. I think it's going to be the screen game, the things that we saw at USC that we were like, hey, you can do that too. That's like the added plus. That's what I'm waiting for when the quarterback changes.
Well, London to me, man, wow. He is so much fun to watch. But the way that Garrett Wilson maneuvers, just the way he works in the slot, he works outside. I mean, his hot foot release for that fade route was just sick. And then Flacco put it on the money. And I think Eric brought up a great point. When Zach Wilson comes back, do those things stay in place? Or does Wilson just go right back to, I'm throwing it to Elijah Moore every single time, which is essentially what he tried to do as a rookie. So we'll see how that goes. When we get back, it's time for a little either or NFL rookie style. That's next. But Ryan was talking about Drake London. I thought 7. Is Drake London going to have a game with more than 7 catches? Do you love daily fantasy, placing entries, player projections, answering the question whether it's more or less? Well, then Prize Picks is for you. How does it work? Well, you pick 2 to 5 players, and if they go score more or less than their Prize Picks projection, you can win up to 10 times your money on any entry. Now, I don't need to do math for you. Take 10, multiply it by any number, and that's how much you can win. No competing against other people. It's just you versus the projections. Prize Picks offers projections on any sport that you watch. NFL, NBA, esports, if that's what you are into. Disc golf, man, get me on Prize Picks for disc golf once I understand the sports. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It's that easy. Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app or go to prizepicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code LOCKED ON. You deposit $100, they'll give you $100. You deposit $50, Prize Picks will give you $50. Don't forget to enter promo code LOCKED ON at sign up for instant deposit match up to $100. All right, boys, third segment. That means either or. So we're going to start, and I flipped a coin before the show, and it came up red. That's Ryan Tracy. He gets to answer this question. Either or NFL rookies. We're going running backs. We'll see where your loyalty lies, Ryan Tracy. Either Breece Hall of the Jets or my new pal, Damien Pierce of the Texans.
I like aspects of both of their games. Who's going to actually be able to follow through? I think there's more pressure than there ought to be on Pierce right now. I got to tell you the truth. It feels like there's a lot of hopes hanging on him, and I hope that doesn't weigh on him because I like the way he runs, but I think he also has to feel free to attack the way he needs to attack and not feel like he's got to get X number of yards on this or the whole offense is going to sputter down. Like that kind of weighs on a guy's mind. I am concerned about that. I think Hall showed you just how special he has the capability of being. Obviously limited touches, but right now, if I had to pick one to get me through the season, I'm kind of old school, and I'm with you on Pierce.
I like it. Eric Crocker, if you say Pierce, you're my best friend. If not, well.
Well, I'm not going to go Pierce. I'm going to go with Breece Hall. And I know he didn't have a great outing against the Baltimore Ravens, only 6 carries for 23 yards, but bounced back a little bit against Cleveland, 7 carries, 50 yards, averaging over 7 yards per carry. Now, they had to kind of get away from the run game because they had to try to come back, right? They dug themselves in the hole, got to come back, win the game. That's all exciting. Who takes the hit? The running back doesn't get as many carries. But I'm a little bit more confident with what I've seen from him, not just in the run game, but in the passing game as well, being able to be a pass catcher. I know who the offensive coordinator is for the Jets, and the philosophy and what they like to do with their running backs. And I'm comfortable with that. Obviously, you got LaFleur, brother LaFleur from the Packers. They all came from that Kyle Shanahan coaching tree there. And I feel like Breece Hall, he fits that outside zone scheme, that zone running scheme to a T, being able to put his foot in the ground, get north right now. So I'm going to lean on him because I'm a little bit more comfortable with what they're going to do consistently. But I am definitely intrigued by Damien Pierce as well.
Okay, you saved yourself. You were going down a road that wasn't good for me. No, I mean, you guys know I was a big Breece Hall fan. I mean, he was RB1 for me in the draft last year. I loved what he brought to the party, everything about him, just his vision, his ability to cut back and find holes that, like, how did he even see that speed, side? I mean, he was everything you wanted. But getting a chance to see DP up close and just the hammerhead that he is, I love a running back that could take care of the second level on his own. And with offensive lines, and ours is one of them, we don't always get to the second level. We'd love to. We'd love to be able to control the front and then get to the second level, but sometimes we can't. Damien Pierce is now taking care of that sometimes on his own. There were a couple of Broncos linebackers that felt it when Damien Pierce was running the football. They just didn't do it consistently enough. So, of course, I put you on the spot with Texans, but I'll make this one a little bit easier because there are no Texans involved. And Eric Crocker, will start with you. This was the debate going into the draft, but now we've seen them for 2 weeks. In week 1, Trayvon Walker, sack, interception. He's added to that Jacksonville defensive line. It looks very good. Aiden Hutchinson, you talked about earlier. 3 sacks against Washington, didn't do a whole lot in week 1. So pick your fighter, either Trayvon Walker, the Jags, or Aiden Hutchinson in the Honolulu Blue.
I think the safer thing is to go with Aiden Hutchinson. But I don't like playing it safe. All right, I like the high upside. I'm going with Trayvon Walker. Again, when I see a guy do some freakish things, and you talked about the interception that he had against Washington, that was a very special interception. The feel that he had, it almost felt like he set it up, right? And I talked about this with Ryan Tracy, where I'm like, you know what? I really like when quarterbacks, if I'm in the cover 2 and they're throwing a smash concept at me where you got a 5-yard hitch by 1, 2 runs a corner route, and I know it's kind of coming, so what I'll do is I'll say, all right, I'm going to show the quarterback what he wants to see. I'm going to play down, and as soon as he raises that arm up to throw it, I'm going to bail out and rob that 7 route. Now, it looked like Trayvon Walker had that type of feel in just his first NFL game, to be able to have the feel of, hey, I'm going to act like I'm with these linemen, and I'm going to let him throw that screen. As soon as he raises his arm to throw it, I'm going to peel back and pick it off, and he made a freakish athletic play. I want to see more of that. I'm going with upside. I'm going with Trayvon Walker, the number 1 overall pick.
Ryan Tracy, Trayvon Walker, or Aiden Hutchinson, choose your fighter.
I am not shocked that Eric Crocker went with the physical freak. That is not a surprise to me. But here's the
physical
thing.
Freak.
The problem with that kind of thing is, though, you get the super highs, but you get lows as well. That was the only pass rush pressure he got, was that sack in week 1. He got a few more, but didn't get home in week 2. Walker is that guy. He's going to be up and he's going to be down. It's going to be a bit of a roller coaster until he solidifies, whereas Hutch is going to be nice and even. I think that's what we've seen just in a very recent start. So for me, it's about how much upside is left and how much wait time is there on Walker. In the end, right now, this season as a rookie, I'm going to take Hutch the whole way because I think he's going to give you something every single game while you're waiting on Walker to get consistent.
Way to play it safe, Ryan.
I'm here for you, buddy.
All right, this last one will merge NFL, college together. Finish this sentence. Bryce Young will be playing for either the Las Vegas Raiders or the Indianapolis Colts in 2023. Ryan Tracy, pick the location that Bryce Young goes. Does he replace Derek Carr or does he replace Matt Ryan? Both teams, well, the Colts are 0-1-1, thanks. But the Raiders are 0-2. Yeah, it's early, but that's what we do. Pick your fighter, Raiders or Colts for Bryce Young.
It's tough, and I'll say this. Matt Ryan is dancing on the edge of that canyon to fall off to the end of his career. Can he pull it back in when his weapons return? I don't know. I'm leaning that direction, but I'll say this. I feel like the Raiders as a team have more fight in them. I think at the end of the day, if they don't get things turned around offensively in Indianapolis, And sorry to say, you got the Kansas City Chiefs coming at you this week. That's going to be hard to get done here in the first 4 games. It feels like the Colts are in a hole they're going to have trouble getting out of. I think it ends up being Indianapolis.
Eric Crocker, Raiders or Colts for Bryce Young?
Man, I hope it's the Colts. I really like the way that they run that organization. And right now, it's very odd to see the Colts lose to Jacksonville Jaguars. And not just lose. You did not score. You lost 24-0. And as someone who put some money down on that and added it into a parlay, I was extremely disappointed with the efforts of the Indianapolis Colts. It just hits a little different. You feel a little different when you got some money on it, all right? But all jokes aside, ideally, you want to go to a very well-ran organization. And I do not think that's the Las Vegas Raiders. I think they have some talented players, but still, they continue to go through these cycles of not doing well. There was this thing out on social media that showed some of the things that hadn't even started up yet. The last time the Las Vegas or Oakland Raiders or Los Angeles Raiders, whatever you want to call them, the last time the Raiders won a playoff game. And y'all would be amazed at the things that were not invented yet. I mean, there wasn't even the iPhone yet. And I feel like iPhones have been around for 2 decades. Well, they have.
Of course.
And the Raiders, it's been that long since they've won a playoff game. There were more that will make you feel really old and look at the Raiders a certain way. So I don't want any parts of the Raiders. If I'm Bryce Young, send me to an organization that has had some success, that was just in the playoffs, not last year, because maybe it might be something with Jacksonville. They lost to Jacksonville week 18, and that knocked them out of the playoff hunt. But the year before that, you had Phillip Rivers there. They were able to go to the playoffs and really kind of have a chance to win that game. We saw what they did with Andrew Luck. Didn't start off great. He was getting beat up like a piñata, but eventually he kind of was able to kind of make it through there, and they ended up going to an AFC championship game. So I just like the way that they're ran, and I think they'll do more to support a young guy like Bryce Young. So I think it should be the Colts if I had any say-so in that.
The Colts cannot win in Duval County. They can't. I don't know if it's like a statute or what. They cannot win. Even when they had Andrew Luck, and Luck was just going crazy in 18, they went down there and lost 6-0. It was the strangest. It's the strangest thing ever. The Jaguars taking over the Colts. But I would agree with you. If Bryce Young ends up with the Indianapolis Colts, I'll cry probably for a long time. But that's the one I would choose, and we'll see what happens with Matt Ryan. Boys, that's going to do it for tonight's show. We appreciate you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen every day. Now go make your second listen the Peacock and Williamson NFL show. Brian Peacock, who you know, Eric Crocker, and former NFL scout Matt Williamson give you the expert NFL analysis in less than 30 minutes. It's free and available wherever you get your podcast. So make sure you're downloading us, Peacock and Williamson. But whatever you're doing, make sure you're listening to Locked On all throughout the network. Appreciate you listening. We'll see you next time. And as always, let's go.
Peace.